When I was little, very, very little, there was a story my father told me of strange people with featureless faces and heavy metal bodies, monsters who would lurk in the shadows out beyond the endless dark, beings of twisted hatred and merciless violence. He would tell me if I wasn't home before dark they would come. He would say I had to be quiet and very, very still when he said so, had to follow instructions without question. Then the Shivari came, with their chains and whips and instruments of torture. I watched as they dragged my friends, my neighbors, my father away. Had to accept that I would never see them again, and it hurt. But my mother told me another story. A story about a rock, a monument to this inevitable fate. Carved on its surface were ancient words which supposedly set forth the mandate of dominion. In time, the Shivari would be overthrown, but in place of liberty we instead found enslavement at another's hands. We suffered and died, our numbers dwindling one by one. Overlords changed and still the cycle repeated. Still the takers took, and we the conquered suffered. Eventually, I too was taken, a shackle around my legs and binding my throat. I was driven into the hot, cramped depths of a mind far, far from the homeland I had once known. I watched as 1,000 different species toiled and died in the endless dark, and I made my peace with never seeing the sun again. And yet, in this oppressive dark, I found yet another storyteller, one who sat beneath the poor lighting of our barracks and sang of an old friend, called Marin, who long, long ago made a promise, one they carved into the very stone of the world. As months turned to years, and years to decades, still the singer, with her strange, ever-shifting hair, would sing about her promise. Sing in that sorrowful melodic tone, a tone that wound its way into my mind, convincing me of its truth. It too convinced more than me. Others took the song to heart. They raised their voices and their picks. They were swiftly massacred and left to rot in the hot, claustrophobic dark of that tapped-out mine. And then the day came when the last vein ran dry, and our masters, the Zenfara, or maybe the Arcus, wished to crush our spirits once more. They dragged us before the mighty stone they called the Pillar of Supplication and made us kneel, offered many, many words of their superiority, their greatness. I think they did not look closely enough. There I sat at the foot of the great dais, its ancient stone littered with broken manticles, the monolith itself the single most beautiful sight I had ever laid my eyes upon. If the singer had not rose to run and touch its cold black surface, I think I would have instead. I forced myself to look away when they removed her hand for the offense. Yet she did not lament her loss. Instead, when I asked her about it, she smiled, leant in and told me of the heroic Marin once more. Told me the stone had spoken to her. I thought her driven to madness, but she insisted. The stone spoke. It wanted its words to be heard, to be read by all. She told me it was no symbol of the right to rule, but a warning, a promise. I did not believe her, but she was right. After that day, we grew closer as I aided her in her duties. We spoke of our homelands, our people's histories. She told me that Marin was not a who, but a what. She told me about grim sailors on an ocean of blood, of a promise made to her forebears and handed down. She in time told me what the stone had said. Where the spark of liberty falters, and the cruel oppress the weak, where none dare speak for you, reach out and take my offered hand. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Where the spark of liberty falters, and the cruel oppress the weak, where none dare speak for you, reach out and take my offered hand. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. When no other dares, I shall speak for the voiceless. When no other cares, I shall lift for the helpless. When no other shall, I shall bleed for the defenseless. This I swear upon 10,000 broken shackles. Where the spark of liberty falters, and the cruel oppress the weak, where none dare speak for you, reach out and take my offered hand. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. When no other dares, I shall speak for the voiceless. When no other cares, I shall lift for the helpless. When no other shall, I shall bleed for the defenseless. This I swear upon 10,000 broken shackles. Shortly after they came, the faceless, nameless monsters from the dark abyss. They came with great weapons, and I feared they would have a massacre. Yet they left the slaves unharmed, mercilessly tore through our masters, but did not lift a finger towards us. Then I feared we had once again traded masters, but they shattered our chains. Then I thought there were an uprising, come to doom us all to retribution. But when I heard their name, I understood. My dear singer's promise had been kept. The Mariness had come. They came, and they sailed upon an ocean of blood. They came with guns and ships, and they tore across the galaxy, flying a simple standard, a golden star on a black field. They came to bleed for the defenseless and speak for the voiceless. In the decades that followed, these nameless, faceless soldiers faded away once more. But the monument to their promise grew. To this day, in the Senatorial Plaza, you can see the 100,000 shackles the brave Mariness offered at the foot of their promise stone. In the council halls of our fair union, their words sit carved in stone, spread to every corner of our galaxy and told to every child. For they left us with a promise that we must keep in their absence. We must speak for the voiceless, lift for the helpless, and if need be, bleed for the defenseless. That is the legacy of the nameless, faceless Mariness, the human pyre of liberty. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed your time on the Starseeker. Everything I use for the video is in the description below. If there's a story you want to hear, let me know, and I'll reach out to the author and see if we can make that happen. It's a big universe out there, but remember to look up and seek the stars.